Week 3 of the UFL is coming, and we need to talk about the positives and the negatives. First, just want to let you know that BreakingT has some brand new UFL merchandise at their website right now. These are just released. A lot of other exclusive gear is there as well. Just visit BreakingT.com/John Lewis to go directly to the UFL gear. Before we get started here with the positives and negatives, let's talk about the Week 2 ratings, and there could be some positive and negatives here. These TV ratings are from Sports Illustrated's Mike Mitchell. The most watched game of the weekend, it was Arlington at St. Louis, 908,000 viewers on ABC. Just behind that, 903,000 viewers on ESPN watching Birmingham at Michigan. Houston at DC, 849,000 on Fox. And then San Antonio at Memphis, this one was tough, 718,000 on ESPN. Now, no broadcast, as you see there, topped a million. That was probably due to the NCAA tournaments playing all weekend. I'll get into why this coming weekend could be another tough one as far as TV ratings go for the UFL. But first, let's talk about the positives and negatives heading into Week 3. The DC Defenders visit the Arlington Renegades to kick off the action Saturday. For the Defenders, who got their first win of the young season in front of a reported crowd of more than 15,000 fans in DC, it was a mixed bag. The good, DC quarterback Jordan Ta'amu's main receiving weapons from 2023 are in the NFL now, but he was able to evenly distribute the ball to 4 different receivers in the win over Houston. The bad, the DC defense showed sparks, but what really jumped off the screen was Houston backup Reed Sennett coming in early and throwing for 221 yards and a touchdown. Awaiting the Defenders is an angry 0-2 Renegades team who dropped a heartbreaker to the St. Louis Battlehawks in Week 2 with a last-second field goal in the 27-24 loss. The good for Arlington, the Renegades were 3 of 3 in the red zone, and they can really build on that heading into the matchup with DC. They did that in front of a modern spring football crowd of 40,000 screaming St. Louis fans, so a home game will be welcome for the Renegades this week. The bad, 0-2 is 0-2. Arlington head coach Bob Stoops certainly overcame a slow start in 2023 to get all the way to the XFL championship, but that was only after bringing in quarterback Luis Perez during the season. Perez can only do so much. The Renegade running game needs a boost, as Arlington has yet to have a rusher top 30 yards in the first 2 games. The Birmingham Stallions finally get a home game this weekend as they host the Memphis Showboats. The good for Birmingham, the road has been no problem. The Stallions are 2-0, but the question is, are the Stallions really this good, or is this fool's gold, with the wins being against a now 0-2 Arlington team and a 1-1 Michigan Panthers team that had one of the worst home crowds of the season? Which leads to the bad for Birmingham so far. The quarterback duo of Matt Corral and Adrian Martinez, those guys have produced some sizzling highlight reel plays, but in the win over Michigan, neither one of them topped 100 yards passing or threw a touchdown. The red zone is a problem for the Stallions offense. The unsung hero for the Stallions was kicker Chris Blewett, who connected on 4 field goals in the win. For the Stallions' opponent Saturday, well, they've got to have a short memory. The Memphis Showboats blew an 11-point lead in the last couple of minutes to lose to the San Antonio Brahmas at home. Let's start with the good for Memphis. Much like Birmingham, the kicker put the special in special teams. Matt Coughlin's 3 field goals helped the Showboats build a 16-0 lead on San Antonio. John DiFilippo's team showed a balanced attack with 176 yards in the air and 112 on the ground. Okay, the bad, and it wasn't just about that last-second loss. You have to wonder how much more Memphis quarterback Case Cookus can take. It's not even about the sacks. It's about the continued hits he keeps taking. Cookus is a quality quarterback who could very well lead Memphis to the playoffs, but he has to stay healthy first, and scenes like this make you wonder if he can. Sunday's action kicks off with the Houston Roughnecks visiting the Michigan Panthers, and we talked about Houston's loss to DC, but about that solid performance of backup quarterback Reed Sennett. So, the good news for Houston head coach Curtis Johnson is he knows he has a viable quarterback to replace Jared Garantano, who could miss a lot of time after an injury in this past weekend's game. The bad news is the Roughnecks are struggling with the ground game without running back Mark Thompson, who has yet to play after a preseason knee injury. Houston has only rushed for 92 total yards in the first 2 games of the season. The good news for the Michigan Panthers is that kicker Jake Bates is proving he is no fluke. A week after winning the game against St. Louis and winning some headlines, with his 64-yard field goal in Week 1, Bates followed it up with a 62-yarder and a 52-yarder this week in a home loss to Birmingham. The bad news, well, if you lose a game and no one saw it, is it still a loss? Okay, no one might be a little harsh, but after only about 9,000 people showed up for the home opener at Ford Field, this past weekend's numbers were worse. An announced crowd of less than 7,500 on hand this past Sunday. UFL Vice President of Football Operations Daryl Johnson went on the record about the low turnout in Memphis, so he's got to be worried even more about the sparse crowd in Michigan. What will we see this Sunday in Detroit? I mean, it can't get worse, can it? Finally, the Week 3 schedule wraps up with maybe the best matchup of the weekend, St. Louis at San Antonio. The good news for the Battlehawks is they got a win after a disappointing opening game loss at Michigan. Both games decided by a field goal, but this one went St. Louis's way. Better yet for the Battlehawks, the offense looked like what we have come to expect. 344 yards of total offense, with quarterback A.J. McCarron throwing for 248 yards. The bad news for the Battlehawks, well, there won't be 40,000 fans rooting for them this Sunday when they try to hand the San Antonio Brahmas their first loss of the season. The good news for the Brahmas, as I said, this one is at home, and we could see a turnout of more than the team's average of 15,000 that we had last season, maybe just to see the legend of quarterback Chase Garbers grow with each game. He has been a surprise star in the UFL. But there is bad news, and it involves Garbers. While the Brahmas won last weekend against Memphis, the offensive start was downright offensive. 14 yards of total offense in that first half. They were able to overcome it, but a slow start against a team like St. Louis would be trouble for the Brahmas. Could be trouble for the UFL as far as ratings are concerned again this weekend. Now, the NCAA tournaments, they are over, but do not sleep on golf this weekend. As a lot of you know, the Masters is coming up, and let me tell you something about the Masters. The 2023 tournament averaged more than 12 million viewers for the final round. That was the most watched golf telecast in 5 years. So we'll have to see if the UFL can hold up against some stiff competition again this week. Tell me what you think about the positives and negatives, and will the UFL ratings maybe improve this weekend, even though there's golf going on? We will see if the UFL can hold its own against some stiff competition once more this weekend. What are you looking forward to this weekend? Let me know down in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe.